All right. Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 261 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, recorded on September 28th, 2020. This evening, I have Ian with me, and I once again will be the Andrew. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show and how I do a better or worse job than Andrew. So please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
You can check the podcast out on Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast. Since there's nobody else to help shill us the stuff out here, I'm going to start off with We Need Your Help. To support the show, visit patreon.com/TPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Since we moved to the 2-show-a-week COVID format, patrons also get early access to the midweek show. So you're not a communist, buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
Yeah. Now our favorite segment of the show, what are you drinking? Yeah.
Well,
what are you drinking?
I can't have you drink alone tonight, so I decided to join you with a polar bear because it's actually kind of cold out today. So for the uninformed, a polar bear normally is a hot chocolate with Bailey's and peppermint schnapps. And I decided to mix up and do a little mocha polar bear. So I threw a little coffee in there too.
Nice. I thought you were going to just drink the schnapps.
No, I was thinking, it's not the blood of a polar bear either, which, I'm not the right area of the country for that. So.
Oh, there you go. I'm drinking a Jack Daniel's and Diet Pepsi this evening. Yes, for a moment there, I was worried that I would be drinking alone because, well, it didn't look like anyone else was going to be on the show but me for a little bit. But thankfully, Ian saved me.
I got your back.
Yeah, well, I guess we should remind everybody about the Patriot Challenge. No one seems to be doing it, or at least they don't seem to be posting about it. I'm hoping that you are actually doing it, and you're doing it for the right reasons, which are doing it for yourself, because we don't really give a shit if you do or you don't, but we would like to encourage you to be a better person. So that's why we're trying to do this. And also, I mean, if you do care about the socialists of medias, you can tag us and we'll repost it, and then we'll all have the same, 500 friends or something like that on social media. How those things work, right?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, there's also the thing where you can worry about OPSEC. You don't want to tell everybody what you're doing or what you're planning or anything else. By the same token, though, you still want to get it out there and kind of encourage other guys to do the same. So
yeah, because you got to watch it, because your dad might see the photos that you post and then recreate them, and that never goes over well.
That's right. Things happen on Instagram, right? So
yeah. But yeah, we're asking everyone to do 5 things every day. So 1, exercise for at least 45 minutes. 2, practice a skill for at least 10 minutes. Read a book for at least 15 minutes. Drink at least 2 liters of water, and complete 1 task that will improve your life. So yeah. There's some reading here that we can dive into.
I don't think there's any downside to doing the Patriot Challenge at all. So.
No, I mean, the only thing you have to lose is, body fat and ignorance.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could all stand to lose a few of those things a little bit.
I'm not facing a shortage myself of either right now, so it seems I need to work on both.
Yeah, and speaking of that, BC voters heading to the polls. Staff election called for October 24th.
Swell, huh?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, no candidate for the Conservative Party in my riding so far that I've seen anyway. But yeah, the Liberals, surprisingly, are promising to take away the provincial sales tax for at least a year to help the economy recover, and then go back to 3% the next year thereafter.
And then double it every year after that?
Yeah, that's the problem. It sounds good at first, but it's always it's like a timeshare. Like the sales pitch always sounds so good. And then you sign the dotted line, and then things go sideways. And I'd have to vote for a Liberal to do that. So I don't know. It's a tough call.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, if the Conservatives don't have a party out that way, or at least don't have a candidate out your way, I mean, do you not vote, or do you vote for the one that you least dislike? I mean, which basically is every election, it seems, these days, is voting for the one you least dislike. I haven't voted for someone I wanted to vote for in ever, probably. Let's be honest here. Yeah.
Was it Churchill or Twain that said, voting is like trying to pick up a turd from the clean end?
I believe that was Andrew every week that says.
Yeah. Anyway, as well. I guess Amita Kuttner from the Green Party is a potential candidate if she actually wins her leadership election because she believes in self-defense using firearms. So there's that.
Yeah, but you will have to suffer the consequences of all the other potential green initiatives and agendas.
Yeah, I mean, the home of the Green Party actually right now is making the Instagram airways because I guess the new latest thing for scuba divers to do is go down diving off the coast of the city of Victoria and get selfies taken in front of the sewage outflow where they have all the raw sewage going into the ocean because it's about a 10-foot pipe. And yeah, very green, very green.
Yeah, that's speaking turds. Yeah, that. Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross. You could be in a sea of them.
Yep.
Well, speaking of other turds, Trudeau says families won't likely be able to gather for Thanksgiving, but it's not too late to save Christmas.
So, how's he going to enforce that one?
Well, hopefully not by going to his out-of-province cottage, because that kind of sets a bad example, because that's kind of what happened the last time he told everyone to not gather with their families. Because, stay home and save lives, right?
That was Easter, was it not?
Yes. So not that long ago. I mean, yeah.
Well, I'm surprised he's actually worried about Christmas to begin with, because doesn't he just usually refer to it as just the holiday season? He doesn't. I haven't seen him do a Merry Christmas video yet.
Yeah, I am definitely surprised that he referred to it as saving Christmas and not saving the holiday of your choice during the winter season, or whatever other politically correct way of saying that is. But I mean, I don't know. The whole thing is starting to get, certainly on my nerves, and the stats don't make sense to me anymore as to the panic.
No, they keep revising the stats. I think it gets less and less lethal by the day. That's for sure. And I'm trying to figure out why they're manufacturing this second wave business right now, when really it's the case numbers that they're talking about just don't add up to equate like anything like before.
I mean, and we have our regular panels have a chat that we're all on, and we're constantly bitching about the government and practicing our terrible jokes. But one of the comments that was raised was that, if you look at the death numbers, they've kind of fallen off, and then they're very steady of only a couple here and there. And if you have 0 in a row for a couple of days and then you have 2, statistically that's a massive jump if you just look at the number, right? Because you'd be like, oh my god, it's a 200% increase. Except it's 2 people, which is inconsequential. It certainly sucks for those families that are affected by it, but when dealing with numbers, that's not how that works. And they keep going on about the number of cases they're testing more and more people, so of course we're going to find more people that are testing positive. But if the death numbers are staying the same, then that means that likely we've had this number of cases all along and the same amount of people are dying. That's how I read the statistics anyways.
Well, I've also noticed a really subtle shift between when they first started out, they always were focusing on the death numbers, and now they focus strictly on case numbers.
Well, that's because all of the people in the old folks' homes have died off.
Yeah. So
now the massive death numbers just aren't there, so they have to flip their story, to keep everyone scared.
Well, and with the increase in testing, you're going to have more positives. False positives or real positives is kind of irrelevant because they want to bump those numbers up because we had rookie numbers before, right? So, it just makes for more histrionics and get the Karens out there enforcing the mask rules, and it just they like the population living in fear. I swear to God, that's straight out of the KGB playbook, I think.
Well, exactly, but then it's okay for Trudeau to go and spend Thanksgiving with his family out of province and take all of the staff away from their families and have them go into a small town and expose themselves and or other people to potential risk if you believe that it is a thing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if he still believes that it's a thing and he's not, fully aware that he's manufacturing pandemic at this point, then he's an idiot and just insensitive and selfish.
Well, and not even all of the above, but I think he's just taking his marching orders from elsewhere. Like, as we pointed out last week with the Build Back Better thing, clearly they're marching in lockstep with a bunch of people on the same program.
But I mean, if he believes the nonsense that he's saying, he is the biggest insensitive prick around, right? Like, we're living in the most dangerous viral pandemic known to man. Yeah, I'm going to go visit my cottage and bring a bunch of staff with me. That seems like a smart thing to do. Like, what? No, don't be a dickhead. But yes, to answer the Albertan, I'm pretty sure that Sophie has a trip to London planned. Not Ontario, England, to go see the elbow.
Yeah, that's right. She wants to spend Christmas with the people she cares about too, or Thanksgiving for that matter.
Yeah. She will be thankful all night long.
Yep.
Fun times.
Speaking of the RCMP that had to go protect people in other provinces and stuff.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the RCMP mask policy for bearded frontline officers is discriminatory and shouldn't have happened, Trudeau says.
So, on the background on this one, is this the one where they basically put guys with beards basically on desk duty because they couldn't get a proper fit to their mask?
I believe that is, yeah.
Yeah, so again, no matter what type of PPE you're using, if you believe that the masks are going to be effective, and if you believe that this coronavirus is that catchy, I suppose, then if you're issued protective equipment, no matter what industry you're in, whether you're working in a factory or a grain silo or whatever, and you can't get a proper fit in your mask, maybe you shouldn't be going into that sort of dangerous work.
Yeah. I mean, it seems perfectly reasonable to me. Like, you kind of accept that risk, so.
I think they're trying to. I don't think they're being discriminatory. I think they're trying to accommodate the fact they didn't want to shave off their beard, and so they just gave them a less dangerous job.
Yes, but it had a number of religious minorities, Sikhs and Muslims predominantly, sent from the front lines to sit at a desk, which optically looks bad.
Well, if anything, you keep them safer. So actually, it should look good. It means you care about them more than the average line officer.
Yeah, which.
And they can practice their desk pops at the same time, right?
Yeah, just as long as it's not full auto. That you get charged per round, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, we'll get to that sooner or later.
Although, why didn't they talk to for the Sikh fellas? I mean, why did they just talk to Harjeet and get his gas mask that he could wear with a beard? I mean, does he not care about the rest of the population, or he's only worried about fucking over the military?
I think option 2.
He's like, fuck the population and fuck the military. The guy's got a patent on this thing, so why aren't they utilizing that? Like, set up a Crown Corp. They could have funneled all kinds of money through that, inflated costs and then given them away, and then use that as some sort of a tax write-off because it's a charitable thing.
Pay people to speak about it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think they would have been all over that opportunity. I mean, watch that happens now next week because I know they listen to the show. Because there's too many things that we have predicted that have come true for them to not listen to the show.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's new listeners. If they got certain people doing desk jobs, maybe we have new listeners.
Welcome, new RCMP listeners. We're sorry that they couldn't provide you with the proper PPE.
And honestly, it depends on how you shave your beard. You can always get a mask that goes around the beard and kind of comes up behind it or something. So there is always trimming too.
Yeah, that, and I mean, you can't always just use the old Vaseline trick where you just smear your beard with Vaseline and that helps create a seal.
Yeah.
Or duct tape it to your face or whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
I mean, in the war, if they could pee on a sock and then breathe through that to get by the mustard gas, I'm pretty sure we'll be okay. We can figure something out that's less gross.
Yeah, that was that mustard or chlorine? Something. I guess the ammonia in the urine counteracted.
Yeah.
Whatever was in the gas. Anyway.
Well, speaking of things we predicted, I'm going to skip over the articles about the leaders having the COVIDs. We kind of talked about that during the recap of the throne speech, but we'll leave the notes in there for people that care. But O'Toole and what is it, Blanchette, the block guy, both have the coronas, so they were not wearing masks.
Yeah,
or they were also visiting the elbow and or Sophie. But yes, things that we predicted. Liberals and NDP reach deal on sick leave, avoiding immediate election.
It's kind of funny, like, okay, so obviously he sold out for a few more sick days, but that was the first thing he sold out for last time. So how many more sick days does he want, or was that just the top 2 items on his list?
Sick days and more sick days, I think, is all he has written down on the napkin on his desk.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this with a coworker today that, like a lot of our guys, when they were negotiating previous contracts and stuff, they actually gave up a lot of stuff. Maybe in lieu of pay raises, they got extra sick days written into the contract and everything else. So we actually had to trade off stuff to get sick days that were paid. And now, of course, they just give them away to the general pop. We basically just wasted all that negotiating time and effort. However many years ago that was, to get whatever we would have gotten anyways now. So it's kind of like the people that had it get pissed off. Some people didn't want it or need it or care. Small business employers, it cuts into their bottom line. I mean, sounds good to the people on welfare or the non-taxpayer, shall we say. But for the average Joe, it's really like not a great thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess his thing was that if they amend the wording in Bill C2, which was basically tabled the minute that the throne speech went live, and what that was supposed to do was sort of it transitioned people off of CERB to one of a bunch of other recovery benefits programs where they would decrease your CERB benefit by a little bit, and now they want to keep that at the same, and sick days for everybody.
Walper Style actually mentioned that the government shutdown should have lasted 10 years and been without pay with no OICs. Totally agree. The Albertan asks, doesn't sick leave fall under provincial labor code? I don't understand how this is even federal. Well, there's actually lots of jobs out there that are federally regulated, not provincially. Anything in the transportation sector, obviously, if you're, anything that kind of part of the infrastructure, I guess, for lack of a better term, you're federally regulated. So it's not subject to provincial stuff at all. So
and I'm sure, I think this also kind of falls into the Liberals don't understand how the federal government works or any other layer of government, hence the trying to push a municipal handgun ban through when that's not constitutional because the provinces control the municipalities. But somehow they still think they're going to do it, so I imagine it works the same with this, where they're just going to go 10 sick days, exclamation, and then put it on a piece of paper and put it out there and then just kind of expect everyone to make it happen. Yeah. Right? We know they don't have plans for anything that they push through. So they just write stuff down. It sounds good. They agree to it. And then nothing ever happens with it. I mean, we'll talk about some things where they said a bunch of stuff and then nothing ever came of it. Because, that's the hard part. Anyone can promise things.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of federally regulated employees, such as prison guards or whatever, that I'd be shocked if they didn't already have 10 paid sick days in their contract. But now they definitely do. So I don't understand how many people is even going to affect to the positive, that is. But I can't imagine that's going to buy that many votes.
I mean, no, but when they just keep giving it away and giving it away and giving it away, it's a death of 1,000 cuts kind of a thing, or the buying of 10,000 votes. You give away a few $1 billion and
get 10,000 votes.
You don't get it.
Typical liberal efficiency, though, I suppose. But
you'll get enough votes that it'll make a difference in a few key ridings. But speaking of promises that they haven't kept, 1 year after Trudeau pledged 2 billion trees, not a single one has been planted.
Whoa.
I know, right?
There was actually just an article there on Facebook one of the oil patch companies there planted 11 million trees in the last year or whatever it was as
Yeah.
part of their reclamation thing. So I mean, by the time they planted the first tree, they'd already done more than the federal government, and it was like private enterprise.
Yeah, which I mean is pretty typical, right? Like government can't get anything done. You know, they've had a whole year to at least get started, and not a single tree. Like it does not take, like if you ever were, you know, somewhat of a hippie kid growing up, you probably went and did tree planting. I didn't because I wasn't a hippie kid, but I knew a bunch of them that did go. And like they'd basically go, all right, here's your shovel, here's a bag of trees. You know, like
Get at her.
Yeah, like just go plant trees. And like they would just go and like they'd all be hungover and or still drunk and or high, and would just kind of go and plant trees. Like it really doesn't take a whole lot of time and effort to plant a tree. I mean, they're usually little, foot tall little pine trees or whatever in your sack, and you just go and that maybe they wouldn't have got 2 billion, but they could have at least got 10.
Kind of like a piss up in a brewery. You think that these get a couple done by now, but
just sheer dumb luck, if nothing else, right? Like
the Albertan mentioned it was Suncor that managed to get that many trees planted there. But no, I do not believe we should centralize everything and give company sick pay for everybody. But if it's part of your pay package that's pre-negotiated, if it's there, it's not a government job. Like my job isn't a government one, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, some things it makes sense to regulate them federally. I mean, again, not that I like regulations or all of that stuff, but like certain things it does make sense to regulate them federally if we are going to regulate them at all, just so that it's the same across the board, right? Like that's why we do firearms law federally, not provincially or municipally, because we'll see how crazy that gets if they do try to push that municipal ban through, of how ridiculous that will be to enforce. I mean, if sick days were done municipally, imagine how crazy that would be. Provincially can be bad enough, but yeah, certain things, it just makes sense.
Yeah, if you're a truck driver and you drive from Winnipeg to Vancouver on a daily basis, like which province do you fall under, right? So that's why they do federal regulations for a lot of stuff.
Exactly, right? It just makes sense. It's easier to do it that way. I mean, I'd be fine with just getting rid of regulations, but if you're going to do it in a way that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Unlike this buyback. So more things that they're doing and then undoing or not doing at all. Fed's uncertain the firearm buyback will start before amnesty for banned guns ends. I think we kind of also made that prediction.
Well, it's certainly not going to be ready if you cancel the tender process.
Yeah. I mean, you have no plan. You wait a few months. Then you kind of ask people to give you their plans, and then you stop looking almost immediately.
Yeah, they officially canceled the tender for those guys that didn't know. And so basically right now, as it stands, they have no plan. They're not seeking outside third-party plans, which would be even worse, of course. And so again, now that they got the NDP support, maybe they're banking on just doing a mass confiscation without any sort of, compensation.
Well, I mean, that'll be interesting to see, because, I mean, the order in council that they put forward, and it says specifically in it, there will be a buyback program. It also specifically says that grandfathering will be an option. So they have to put those two things forward, or they are breaking their own order in council, which I'm sure there are some legal consequences to. Right? Like they can't just leave it there. And, they've put the amnesty in, but like, given that they've given us these two options, they must at least present them, however horrible they are. Like even if the buyback says I'll give you a nickel, at least then they would have presented something, and then it's up to us to decide if we want to accept it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got to put something forward prior to that, or they're going to have to extend the amnesty. I mean,
or
maybe they had no plans for a buyback at all and are purely going to just grandfather everything. And they just didn't want to say that from the get-go. Like, this is their way of, like, appeasing voters for the elections and stuff like that by, we're doing this. And then, you know, they'll, because I'm sure their budget's not going to pass. I mean, how could it? Like,
well, and it's not as powerful as a statement if you say we're banning guns, but you can keep them. You know, like, so.
Because I mean, you look at they keep forgetting to mention that grandfathering will be a thing. So, yeah, they're hiding all that, right? But you know, they'll be able to like put it forward. You know, all the poly-suivant people will be ecstatic, and all the people that are super anti-gun will be happy that they're finally moving forward on this. But then they'll like be able to walk it back and go, we tried really hard, but we couldn't do it. And then like the shitty liberal gun owners will be happy because they get to keep their duck guns or something like that, right? Like,
yeah. Anyway, yeah, clearly they won't have a plan in place. They've only got like a year and a half to go now, and yeah, the speed of government moves very slowly, as we saw with their handgun procurement plan.
Yeah.
Tune in next week for that one, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, the government that governs least governs best, except, as we said earlier, this one, when it was supposed to be shut down, wasn't shut down and did a bunch of stupid shit when it shouldn't have been able to be doing anything at all.
Yeah. Speaking of stupid shit.
Yeah. And guns. Reckless firearm charges laid against Aurelia OPP officer. Because only the cops should have guns.
That's right. And clearly their high level of training here has come into play. So
wow.
What I found interesting about this article, to give a bit of background, I guess, is there was a incident on a range, a firing range during, I'm assuming during training anyways, but
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And then it was basically where a few rounds went over the berm, and yeah. But the problem is, this happened how long ago?
Like a decade.
So it took a decade for the charges to come up and actually like be officially laid against this guy. I have a theory that maybe they just had it out for this guy, and maybe that was just something they could dig up on him.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he was part of the ERT, so like the SWAT team, and you know, the guys that wear the cool gray pants, and yeah, it sounds like they were doing some training, and maybe he flipped the giggle switch and like, you know, sent a few over the berm on a little short burst, right? Like, I'm not saying these things happen because they shouldn't happen, but like occasionally things like this do happen, which is why ranges have a safe fall zone, the back end of the range as well.
Yeah.
Just in case. But yeah, the fact that it happened a decade ago and is only now being brought up leads me to believe that, yeah, there is something more to this story that we will likely never find out. But bizarre that they would just come to light now. Yeah, there must be something else that they want to get rid of this guy for. And they're just using this as an excuse because it's the only thing they could find.
Just seems awfully shady to come up out of the blue like that, for sure.
Yeah, that is absolutely bizarre.
But again, you know, with the power of unions nowadays, it's hard to get rid of anybody in any job if they're heavily unionized too, right? So maybe they got to build a case somehow, right?
Yeah, this is their thing. Yeah, maybe the guy's getting too uppity, like he's got too many sick days built into his contract and they can't afford to keep him or something like that.
Or he's been on sick leave this whole time.
Yeah. He's got trauma from sending 4 rounds over the berm that he doesn't know where they landed. So he's just been on sick leave, yeah.
Oh, sick leave.
Yeah, I wish I could get some sick leave. Could use some right about now. It'd be nice.
That's sick and tired leave. That's different.
Yeah. Be a lot more drinking. I guess we should be reminding everybody about book club coming up.
Yeah. So we just finished up. I think I missed 1984. You guys covered that last week?
No, that's going to be probably on Wednesday.
Ooh.
So that might be just before the end of the month. I'm looking at the dates.
30th, yeah, I would be.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're going to sneak that one just in under the wire. Yeah. 1984 will be on Wednesday. So you've got time if you haven't read it.
And the movie's actually not bad and fairly close to the book. So, and
Yeah.
I do believe it's Richard Burton's last movie. And yeah, this is well done, considering the time it was made, which was in 1984, coincidentally.
Yeah. Also known as the Liberal Playbook.
Yeah. Not supposed to be an instruction manual, I didn't think, but
no. But certainly tune in to hear about how we've been at war with East Asia the whole time. October's book, if you want to get started on that, Left of Bang, How the Marine Corps Combat Hunter Program Can Save Your Life by Patrick Van Horn. This will be going back into like a practical book, not a fiction book. Although I don't know how 1984 is fiction anymore.
Yeah, not fiction, and very prescient as far as how they're watching people. When you think about smart TVs and smart fridges and smartphones and everything else, it's actually...
I was having that conversation maybe 2 weeks ago with my parents because I was talking about actually 1984 and how eerily a lot of it is coming true about like telescreens and them listening and watching and all of the other nonsense, and how things get memory hole because we basically have a 2-week news cycle, if that.
Yeah.
And then once it's past that, it's gone and it's never talked about ever again.
Yeah, I often wonder what's going to happen to the COVID after something else happens in November elections and stuff, and the COVID news will disappear as if the riot news starts or whatever. It's a news cycle, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure as soon as Biden wins in the U.S., that the coronas will disappear, right?
Or if Trump wins, the riots will take first place in the news cycle. Already, the news cycle is getting replaced by Supreme Court picks, right? And less COVID. So
we live in clown world. It's official.
Anyway,
so to show that you believe we all live in clown world, head over to bigluow.biz, buy an official Big Luau shirt. We get some of the revenues from it. It doesn't cost you anymore, but we get a couple of bucks on the back end whenever you do that. Or if you click that link to go and search for something else, we get that too. So even if you don't want a Big Luau shirt, go click the link and then go buy whatever it is, toilet paper, because it looks like you're going to need to order it online because the stores don't have it. But do that. We'd really appreciate it. All right, well, Ian, where can everyone find you?
Well, you can reach me at theislandretreat@gmail.com, or you can listen to me talk about the shortage of toilet paper out there on Canadian Prepper Podcast, where we record Sunday evenings on YouTube and Facebook, and you can find us on iTunes as well. So that's Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Great. You can find me on the Instagrams at urbix_GTA. Andrew right now would be telling you that you can find him at ragnaroktactical.ca. And, if you've listened for this long to our drunken ramblings and shenanigans, that you should deserve a discount. And you can use the code Patriot at checkout to get said discount. So go do that too. We don't have toilet paper, but we have some other stuff that might save your life. Although I suppose you could use gauze if you get really desperate.
Yeah.
Or one of those, nitro gloves. Also would work if you're in a pinch, But apologies to Rod. The rules. Ian's on. You're out. Sorry, bud.
He's probably stumping for the election too. Trying to support a local candidate. So.
The only thing left to do is to remind you all that you are the true North, strong and free.